So Tanya is divided by sections. There are themes divided by the sections, and Perek Mem closes one area of discussion. It's the end of a section that from Lamed Hey till Perek Mem is one Inyan. The Alter Rebbe started off he wants to dig or delve more deeply into why the pasuk ends with the word la'asoisei. What's the significance of Maisa? And in the Prokim, we've gone back and forth here since Lamed Hey to speak about what's so special about Olam Hazeh Hagashmi. It's the purpose of creation. How do we know that it's the purpose? Because all other worlds are experiencing a yerida, degree of godliness. Here, there's no lower. Here, there's no gili at all. So that was one aspect. And then the Alter Rebbe contrasted. He said, well, but Kavanah is also very important. He spoke about Dira B'Tachtoinim, what's going to be when Mashiach will come, that the Gashmias of the world, V'Nigla Kveid Hashem, and even the flesh will see godliness. That's the Tachlis. And then he said, yeah, but there are, the spiritual part is also very important. And at the end of Perek Lamed Tes, the Alter Rebbe concluded that there are three general levels of performance of mitzvahs, three general categories. One is lishma. A person does a mitzvah to connect to Hashem with the true. In other words, he's motivated by love, he's motivated by respect, a healthy, positive, engaged, proper fulfillment of mitzvahs. Then we have people who perform mitzvahs because they were nischanich that way. That's what they're used to. That's the life that they know. They were trained, they practiced. This is their life. Like, who am I? I'm an Orthodox Jew. So what do Orthodox Jews do? They put on tefillin. Oh, so of course I put on tefillin. But it's missing that, the hisbonenus and the love, and it's really by rote. So that's the middle level. And then the third level is people who are agenda-driven. They do mitzvahs for a pniya. Why are they doing mitzvahs? Oh, they want their kids to have good shidduchim. So they're doing mitzvahs. They're doing mitzvahs because they want to hold on to a job. I don't know, whatever they
want something from Hashem.
Yeah, they have a pniya. So the Alter Rebbe explained that when a person does a mitzvah, a healthy mitzvah with ava v'yira, so then the mitzvah connects, it ascends, it becomes part of a lekus. When a person does a mitzvah without any motivation, without ava v'yira, then the mitzvah is stuck. It stays in this world. And it waits. It waits for the person to elevate it. And that's one of the last things the Alter Rebbe said, is that he brought from the Zohar that if you daven once a year with kavanah, so then all the neutral tefillos have an elevation. And then the pniya, those people who daven or learn for ulterior motives, they have to do tshuva. It has to be freed from the klipa, because klipa enwrapped. The mitzvah became...
Klippas noga or klippas...
even shalosh klippas. Yeah, it's a klipa, there's a husk, there's a shell that's covering on the light, and it requires tshuva. Right, but the pniya imprisons the. So now the Alter Rebbe, so Perek Mem, the Alter Rebbe begins speaking about that nuch, the one in the middle. He says, for someone who davens and learns without any kavanah, he says, Ach kol zman shelei chazar v'lomar davar ze lishma. If you didn't relearn that piece, l'shem shamayim, with true intent, ein limudei oila, your learning cannot have an aliyah. Afilu b'yud sfiros ha'meiros ba'olam ha'yetzira v'ha'asiyah. Even into the lowest world, it remains in this Gashmi as the world. The famous story, the Baal Shem Tov once came into a shul, And he said, the shul is full of tefillos. And the students were like, wow, what a compliment. And the Alter Rebbe said, I didn't mean it in a complimentary way. It means the tefillos are not going up. They're stuck. They're not oile even to Asiyah. Why? Ki asfiris hein bechinas elikus. The spheres are expressions of Hashem, their godliness. Ubahen, even though they are tempered, the spheres are colored. There's chesed, there's gevura, but still, bahen mislavish u'misyachat oirin soif baruch hu mamish. The infinite light of Hashem permeates into, it's Hashem's chesed. So therefore, because it's godly, because the spheres are expressions of Elikus, so ubaloi dechilu urechimu, without ava and yira, without that kavana, la yochla l'salka ulamekam kadam Hashem, they can't have an elevation and be in the presence of godliness. Kameshakasav b'tikunim, like it's brought in Tikunei Zohar. One part of the Zohar is called Tikunim, Tikunei Zohar. I think there are like 70 plus Tikunim, and they're very much dedicated to speaking about the importance, the significance of Avas Hashem and Yiras Hashem in our service. So what happens to that learning? Limudei oile leicholis umedoirin. The limud goes up to the chambers, to the oilam, not to the godliness, but into the oilam. Shein chitzonius ha'olamis shebehen oimdim hamalachim. Right? What do we say? That when a person says a word, a malach is created. Right? It's like, where do these words and actions go? They go into the realm of, into the world of. In other words, every olam, just like the Alter Rebbe writes in Perek Nun Gimel, there's a Kodesh HaKadoshim. That's where the spheres are. That's where the Shekhinah is. Then there's the rest of the world. In every olam, it's the same thing. In olam HaYetzirah, there are the 10 spheres, and then there's the whole olam. So that avodah goes into those worlds. Like the Rachav writes, in the name of the Arizal, he writes like this. Torah that's lacking kavana, nivroim malachim be'elam hayetzira. There's a few things to speak about. Let's say outside for a minute. Hopefully, it's the night time. We're not used to sitting quietly for so long. I make you fall asleep. We have all the jokes about the rabbis who, why do we have a mechitza in shul so that men and women shouldn't sleep together? All these different jokes. Mm. The guy who fell asleep before the rabbi spoke, he says, "Rabbi, I trust you." All these different. So I'm trying to. So we'll say like this. The word Yetzirah is form. Form is design. The design is very much connected. It's very practical. Right? Design is very practical. It's like the bottom line. What am I going to use this for? That's the world of Yetzirah. The world of Bria is very much the theory world. Like when a person writes a paper, there's the abstract, the ideas. Bria is the idea world. And he's going to talk. And what is Asiyah? Asiyah is a world of action. Well, Asiyah is the very external part. Meaning if we have, let's say we take a din in the Torah. So there's the ideas behind the din, the svaras, the ideas, that's Bria. Then there's the halacha, chayiv, patur, kosher, zakai, all the lashonas, that's Yetzirah. Then there's actuality, acting it out. That's Asiyah. That's the world of Asiyah. So, a mitzvah, what is a mitzvah? A performance. Performance is an asiyah. What is Torah? Torah is learning. Learning, what are you learning? You're learning something. So the learning is already more in the world of Yetzirah. It's more, however, it's not in the presence of Hashem. It's just hanging out in the world. Or to say it this way, Torah has a shvache maisa. I know some of us go like this, but it's still a shvacha maisa. Torah is primarily a more internal process, so it's in the world of Yetzirah. So the language of Rav Chaim Vital, the language of the Arizal is kavana. When we speak about Ava V'yira, we don't usually use that language. We don't refer to Ava V'yira as intent. We refer to it as motivation. So there's a discussion that happens here in Tanya where there's a question. The Alter Rebbe is telling us that we need to love Hashem. He brings proof from the Arizal. But the Arizal doesn't say Ava V'yira. The Arizal says Kavana. Maybe what the Arizal is talking about is a person who does a mitzvah like inadvertently. Let's say you drop money and a poor man finds it. Maybe that mitzvah is not Oila L'mayla. Maybe a person learns chitas, they're just reading the words. They're not even there's nothing. I'm not talking about Chumash, but like, let's say Rashi, Rambam, they just, maybe that's what he means by no kavana. So those mitzvahs can't be, how could the Alter Rebbe bring proof from Reb Chaim Vital, who uses the language kavana, for that you have to have Ava V'yira? So the Alter Rebbe says this, he says, every angel has a body and a soul. It's called, every malach has chaymer and surah. There's the fire or the wind, the spirit of the angel, and then that's the chaymer, and then there's the tzura. There's the design. This is an ahava malach, and this is a gvura malach, a yira malach. Now, when we speak words of Torah, we create malachim. In order for us to create malachim, we need a duality. We need chaymer and surah. We need to provide a body and a soul. What's the soul? The soul is the thought. Not if you're going to say that a person just read the words, then there's no spirit. How's there a malach? Where's the malach? There's only a guf. From the fact that a malach is created, we already know that there is some intention. His mind is present, but not Ava V'yira. Right? So let's see what he's saying. V'chol ha'malachim hem balei chaymer v'tzura. They have these two elements. They're multidimensional. So every mitzvah, the mitzvah is not a thoughtless mitzvah. Of course he knows what he's doing, but he wasn't mizbaina. He's not excited to connect to Hashem. So all of this that Alter Rebbe is discussing is someone who learns Torah or does mitzvahs for no proper reason, because that's the way he was raised, by rote. That's what's expected of him. He wasn't even thinking about it. Of course, at the end of our meal on Shabbos, we make a mezomen and we bench. What are we not going to do that? But there's no Ava V'yira. There's no sense of connecting to Hashem.
I had a chance to meet a guy, it's a brother-in-law of somebody I know, who's been learning for 30 years. He's 30 years in Kollel or something like that. And he's been through Shas 5 times, and he has 4 different kinds of smicha, but doesn't do anything else. I just wanted to, I missed a chance, but I'm wondering where he falls on this.
Okay, hopefully we're all working on improving our own connection. Says the Alter Rebbe, so Aval Torah shalei lishma mamish, but a person who learns Torah literally for an ulterior motive, and he gives an example, kegoyin lias talmid chacham. He wants to be recognized as a prominent person. He wants to be famous. Different people have different taivas. For some people, being handsome is very important. For other people, being strong, physically fit, is very important. For other people, renown, fame it's not the same for everyone. Different people. Some people want to be private. They like privacy. That's not their Indian. So a person wants prominence. Liyas Talmid Chacham, Uchahai Gavna. Even if it's like a spiritual thing. It doesn't even go into the Hecholis. Afilu le'echolis u'mader hamalachim degdusha. Ela nisheres lamata ba'elamaza agashmi shulmader aklipis. It remains in this world. It's enwrapped by klippa. It remains in this world.
Until he learns it again, the Shema.
Here he has to do tshuva. In this case, because it has an ulterior motive, he has to do tshuva. I want to look at the Haggadah right away. What the Alter Rebbe is saying in the Haggadah is, the Alter Rebbe brings from Zohar in different places that just pure learning without Ava V'yira, just verbalizing, obviously with what you're saying, not has power. As long as there's no klippa, just learning. It's oila l'mayla. In other words, a person could say, wait a second, if it's by rote, if it's thoughtless, how does it oila b'chlal? So he says, no, the power of verbalizing words of kedusha. Again, when there's no pnias, So he says, Kameshkasa b'zoyah chela gimel daf lamad aleph omid beis daf kuf chaf la'al omid beis ayin sham hahi mila, the word of Torah salka, it has an aliyah. Ubakar Rekiyin, it pierces through the heavens. So the Zohar doesn't say Hahi Kavana. Hahi Mila, the word is powerful. V'itar ma de'itar, it awakens, it arouses what it arouses. Itav tav, a good word, a positive thing. Chulu ayin sham. And then he brings another Zohar, Daf Kuf Hey Omid Aleph, Mila Dairaisa. So we see the emphasis of the Zohar, that it's just verbalizing a word of Torah. Isavid Minei Kolo. There's a sound that emerges. V'solik Chulu, it has an aliyah. The Daf Kuf Samaches Omid Beis. What does he say? Kolin Dairaisa, it's Lusa. The sound of davening and learning, back in the Rekiyin Chulu, pierces. Not only Torah, even Tefillah pierces through. Now we're back inside the Meshakasa b'Zohar. Here, the Alter Rebbe is going to bring proof from the Zohar that there are tefillos and there are limud that remain stuck in Olam Hazeh. The Zohar says, Al Pasuk, Ma Yisrain la'odam b'chol ha'molei shiachal tachas Hashem. What benefit is there with all the work that you have under the sun? So in other words, like this, without the Zohar, the meaning is simple. We invest so much in the material world, you can't take it with you. What benefit is there long term? There's no long term benefit. So my Yisrael La'adam, what true benefit is there with all the amal, all the exertion, tachas Hashemesh? But the Zohar has a taich. The Zohar doesn't learn pshat like that. The Zohar says that afilu amala da'iraisa, shocking. Imagine, tell someone who never learned Kabbalah what the Zohar says here. He wouldn't know how do you eat this? The Zohar says your learning Torah is worthless. How is that? E of it begin yikari, if you do it for your own glory. So what is the Zohar saying? Tachas Hashemesh, it remains under the sun. It cannot have an aliyah. So we see the Alter Rebbe is not making this up. The Zohar is very clear that without Avavir, it remains in this world. Not only that, V'zeu she'omru, this is the meaning of the Chazal, Ashrei mi shebolakan v'talmudei b'yodei. Right? How praiseworthy is the person who comes here to the world to come with Talmudei b'yodei. So someone who, if you didn't learn Kabbalah, you didn't learn Chassidus, what's the meaning of this? So at the very basic level, what does it mean? How praiseworthy is someone who learned?
Or someone who remembers his learning.
Oh, that's the deeper meaning.
Right.
Basically, you learned.
But that should be Beroshai, not B'yadai.
Oh, so b'yadai, no. So what he's saying, that Rabbeinu Chanana, in other words, the b'yadai is that it's available to you. You don't need a sefer. You memorized it.
Or Isaac.
Talmudei B'Yoda, you have it with you wherever you are. You can. Torah is the best Eschayra. Why is it?
He incorporated it in his life.
Yeah, I don't need a book, right? But what is the, how does the Zohar, in other words, how does the Alter Rebbe explain Al Pi Chassidus? Talmudei B'Yoda means it came with you. It had an aliyah, that it didn't remain lamata. Shelei nisha lamata be'elam hazeh, it didn't remain. Oh, so once again we see.
So he goes to heaven and his Torah stays down here.
Yeah, the neshama. Yeah. So we see that Torah can remain in the Elam Hazeh, that it doesn't have an aliyah. Now the Alter Rebbe asks a kasha, l'chayr it's a shturim de kasha. He says, I don't understand. Ve'af de'iraisa v'kutshu b'chu kol echad. 1 second. Every word of Torah is godliness. What does it mean? That the Torah is klippa? The Torah can't have an aliyah? The Torah can't become part of the Yud Sfiris? It remains in the Chitzoni Yisraelim? I don't understand. Hashem and His Torah are all completely one. Hu Ritzayin Echad. Ratzayin is even higher than the 10 Sfiris. Ratzayin is the essence. So that's a kasha. Now, generally speaking, in Chassidus, there are different biurim, right? There are these themes and ideas. And this Perek Mem, is a chapter that's used as a reference to this idea all throughout Chassidus, because of the way it's like organized. Alter Rebbe is going to talk to us about 2 forms of tzimtzum in Elikus. There are there's reducing the energy, and then there's concealing the energy. There are 2 ways to conceal, right? In other words, let's say one of my kids says, "Ta, I want to have an arm wrestle." Hopefully, one of my little kids. So I say, "Well, look, you're 6 years old. You know what? We'll do it. I'll do my left hand. You'll use both your hands. You know what? I'll use 1 finger." So we're reducing, right? We're reducing the energy, but it's still me. The other way, then you say, "You know what? I'm going to hold a stick and create more distance. And you're going to wrestle. I'm not going to have direct control. I'm going to have to hold the stick and try to wrestle with you. You're not even touching me. It's not, right? So the tzimtzum is reducing the strength. The hester is already putting something else, a foreign object in between. In our world, yes, there's daimon, and there's chai, and there's medaber, and of course there's more elikus in a medaber than in a daimon. But in a certain way, the obstruction is the same. Meaning, of course we're all alive, but we don't know that it's Hashem. We have to conclude that with our brain. It's not self-evident that it's godliness. So in a certain way, the obstruction is the same. It's like through a stick.
Right, we just see the phenomena of the world that's around us. The experiences.
So maybe in a medaber, it's a full hand, and in a daimim, it's a pinky. But we never know who's behind. There's a complete obstruction. Let's see how. So what the Alter Rebbe is arguing. What he's saying is like this: it's true that every word of Torah, every mitzvah is one with Hashem. It's true. But where is it happening? It's happening in Olam Hazeh. Olam Hazeh, the chayes is so reduced that it can't experience true godliness. Let's see in the lashon of the Alter Rebbe. Harei, that's the beginning of the answer. Harei, kucha brichu, ihu mamale kol almin b'shava. Hashem fills all worlds equally, meaning to Hashem, Atzilus and Bria and Asiya, it's the same Hashem. But you can't tell me that Atzilus and Asiya are the same. No, they're not the same. Afal Pikein, even though it's all created by Hashem, Eino Olam is Shrovim b'Ma'alosam. They're not the same in their level. V'hashinuhu me'amakablim. True, the difference is from the recipient's end. I know this is a very far stretch to say something like this, but parents could have several children. Some could be very bright, and others could be less bright. And they share the same parents. The difference is not in the parents. The shinui is from the mekablim's perspective. And the shinui is b'shtei bechinas. There are two ways that the light is condensed. Ha'echad, the one is shehal yoinim mekablim ha'ora yoser gedoylo. They're getting the opening is bigger, and it's much bigger. Le'en kates me'atachtainim. That's number one. V'ashenis, the second thing is shemekablim beli levushim. It's not as obstructed. They're experiencing direct godliness. They don't have the mesachim rabim, the many curtains kol kach kebetachtoinim. One of the things that we've spoken about in the shul, in different shiurim many times, is that, and it's negeya later in the parak, is that you see, atzilus, true godliness cannot be fully processed. Leis machshava tfisabe. So it's unsatisfying. Satisfaction comes from full comprehension. When something remains unsettled, it's not geschmack. If I sit down and I learn a Gemara, and then someone sits down to me and says, "Oh, you think you know this Gemara? Let me show you that you don't know a word," and they tear up the whole thing. Well, how am I feeling? It's enjoyment comes from I get it. That's the aha moment. I got it. We in this world cannot. We could understand the pasuk chumash. We could understand the mishnayos. But godliness, there's yedias hametzias, not yedias hamahus. The essence of what it is, we don't know. In Gan Eden, they may only understand very little about godliness. In other words, a very low level. But that low level is fully understood. That's why it's pleasurable. They may only understand Malchus the Asiya. A tiny fragment of the 10 spheres, but they fully grasp that level. If you fully grasp it, that's incredible.
What Baal Shem Tov showed to Maggid?
No, in the Eitz Chaim, with the Eitz Chaim. He experienced it. Yeah. So what he says here, that's the part, levushim u mesachim rabim. It's so concealed, we can never get it. We can't experience the essence. Ad, it's to such an extent, shenislapsha beklipas noiga. It's in a klipa, it's in a husk. There's a peel. Lahachiyos kol dvarim hatahorim shebaelam haza. We're not talking about terefis, kosher food.
Even that is dressed in a klipa that you have to break it.
Yeah, it needs you have to elevate it. Ubechlolam, included in this family of klipas noiga, is the nefesh hachiyunis, hamedaberes sheba'adam, meaning again, for us, elikus, like the famous Hasidic expression, oilemus is bipshitus, elikus is biischachus. Godliness is the novelty. We have to introduce it. It's not our natural state. We don't, elikus is secondary. Every morning we wake up, we have to say again, exist. So even the nefesh hachiyunis sheba'adam, so is also part of the klipa. V'lachein, therefore, here's the answer. When a human being who is sourced in klipas noiga speaks words of Torah or davens without inspiration, Afshehein oisius kedoshus. They're saying holy words. Oz, Yashir, Moshe. We're saying words from the Torah. The ein klipas noiga shebenefesh achayunis masach mavdil klal. Anyone who hears these words knows that they're from the Torah. It can't conceal that the words Oz Yashir are not from Hashem. They cannot lahastir ulechasos. They can't cover up al kedushasi yizbarech hamelubeshes bahem. Right? They can't cover up on the kedusha. K'may, the way they cover up on the neshama, on the nefesh. Shemasteres umechas al kedushasi yizbarech shebenefesh achayunis k'shemedaberes dvarim betelim. Like when he speaks narishkeit. Or the way it covers up on the nefesh achayunis shebishar balei chayim atahorim, on other animals. The after less asai ponim minei, even though Hashem is everywhere, but He's everywhere in a hidden way. It's not evident. It's not self-evident that it's a likus. Mikol mokim ihu stimu dechol stimin. Hashem is the greatest magician at hiding. No one can hide like Him. V'nikra, Hashem is called Keil Mistater, the hiding God. Now, I'll just say that, one of the things about the Alter Rebbe in Shari Yichud V'Emunah, anything that's Hashem's midos and so on, we can't understand. We can't understand how Hashem could be so present and so hidden. He's Mechaya everything. Yet, we don't know that it's Him. He could be denied. V'gam. Ha'ora. V'hispashtus ha'chayis mimenu yizbarich. This chayis of Hashem, that vivifies, that gives life, is also mistateres. Bilevushim umesachim rabim v'atzumim. In this incredible combination of contractions, etc. Ad shenislapsha v'nistatra bilevush noiga. Right? In other words, as many layers, sometimes in the business that I'm in education, every once in a while, a parent will approach me and say, I have a child, they're home, maybe give him a job. I'll give you the money. Right? I need to keep him busy. He can't come from me. He can't know that it came from me. Sometimes it works. The kids don't figure it out. More often they do. Right? The extent of Hashem's concealment of that, let me do all of this for you, and you're not going to know that it's me. The extent is unimaginable. Yeah, so many mesachim rabbim. Ad kedei kach, that it's a levush noiga, that it's concealed in klipa. That's with the goof, with the nefesh, from the animals, etc. Mashenkin beis yisak kedusha. Shall divrei Torah tefillah, when it comes to words of Torah, ta'adarabah. Klipas noiga misapechas l'toiv. You could transform it. V'nechlalos b'kedusha. Zuka, now it becomes transformed to kedusha. So the words of Torah have the power to elevate. But however, if there's no ava v'yira, what is it? It's a physical word. What is the Torah? It's a word. A word can't, look how the Alter Rebbe says it, mikol mokim. Ha'ha'ora shabohem, what revelation, mikdushasa yizbarich, is there in the words of Torah? Hi b'bchinos tzimtzum ad ketzei ha'achrein. It's in the it's as far as possible. It is concealed to the umpteenth degree from the tzimtzum part. It's not obstructed, but it's tiny in the current. The voltage is tiny. There's no resistance. I don't know if that's shaykh in electricity. Is that possible? Can you have voltage without ohms? How does it work? Ich weiß nicht.
course, there's always resistance.
There's always resistance, right? There has to be
The
resistance.
superconductor.
Right, okay. So here, it's ad kitsei ha'achron. Let's say there's no resistance, but the voltage is tiny. Why? Because the word, what formed this word of Torah? Something physical. And anything physical is that's it, it's in this world. But someone who davens with intent, someone who has avas Hashem, someone who has yiras Hashem, someone who's experiencing the davening as a spiritual experience, not only as a physical experience, but as a spiritual experience. The Torah b'kavana lishma, harei hakavana mislabeshes b'eisiyas hadibur. That ruchnius becomes the neshama of the word. Hayil v'hi makar v'shayrish lahem. Because that's why you're speaking. Ma chamasa ubisi basa. It's the cause and effect. Humedaber eisiyas elu. So these words from the physical world become spiritual giants. Lachein, he, the intent, the ava, maila oisan, ad mekayma biyut sfiris. It elevates them. They become part of Kedusha. Either of Yetzirah or Bria. They're elevated. Depending on the kavana, lefi mashiyah kavana, b'tchila ruchim u'sichliyim, eitiviyim, chulu kanal. V'sham, in what happens when the mitzvah is performed in that way, or the Torah in that way. So v'sham meir u'mizgala eirein seif baruch hu. There, in Olam Habriya, the infinite Hashem is revealed. Ratzon ha'elyon. I want to talk about two things outside of the Tanya for a minute, and then we'll come back inside. Two nukudas. Number one is that, generally speaking, all mitzvahs require gevura. All mitzvahs and all Torah require halah. In other words, the natural state of the human being is to experience gashmias. In order for me to experience ruchnius, I have to control myself, I have to motivate myself, I have to elevate myself. All these things that I need to do are gevura.
You have to make a resolution that you're not going to influence you for this time you're doing this thing.
Right, so there's so much, like every step requires restraint. Like the whole, what is Kabbalah's oil? Whether it's in the most superficial way, I don't want to do it, but I will do it. Every part of it, even the whole state of meditation, meaning without it, I just be in my bed. Now I'm pushing, right? I'm pushing and fighting. So really, the most active trait that's behind all of this avodah is gevura. When a person succeeds, it's like they receive an energy in return. The world, like what do we learn? Yudavim Baruch Aleinu, Hashem bless the year. Oh, now there's a bracha that comes to you. That bracha is a hashpah. That hashpah turns the gevura into chesed. In other words, I go to my job, I work hard, I struggle, but then I bring home a paycheck. That paycheck is mamtik all the dinim. You understand?
Now that we have 5 hours, you gotta whip.
No, you understand what?
But my Spian talked to me in terms of football, which I never liked sports or anything.
Okay, thank you.
Football, you have to completely give yourself to it. You have to give yourself to it.
Okay.
But the winning is so wonderful, especially when you win for your team.
1 second, you stroll. Don't go anywhere. Well, yeah, here. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
I'm going to the bathroom in a second.
Okay, Gesundheit. Okay, so that's Now, here's the, right? So that's one idea. Basically, and Dr. Rebbe will explain it inside, and that's one Indian. In other words,
Gevorahs, that you put in Gevorahs and you stretch yourself and you stretch yourself.
you create an Eis Rotzain. That Eis Rotzain is Hashpah. What does an Eis Rotzain mean? An Eis Rotzain means, if you go speak to him now, you're going to get what you want. Tell me when the boss is in a good mood. I'll go speak to him now. I want to ask for a raise. Now is a good time. Eis Rotzain, Hashem is in a good mood, meaning we will receive Hashpah. That what we receive is Mamtik Tegvuris. First of all, it's the Hashpah of Eir Ein Sof into the 10 spheres that then brings Hashpah. Because he's gonna, the Torah itself is Rotzain Hashem. It's more than, whatever, that's one Indian. The other thing I'll just mention like this. There's a malach, which the Alter Rebbe is going to talk about. There's a malach metat. We're not supposed to vocalize his whole name. We're not supposed to pronounce his whole name. But really, metat, the full word ends with Reish Vav Nun. Metat, and then Roin. That's the name of the malach. That word is an Aramaic word, and it has a meaning. What is it? It's a womb. Womb. Like where a woman carries the baby. In Kabbalah, Malach Metat embodies the world of Yetzirah. In other words, sometimes we'll find, what is Yetzirah? Yetzirah is Malach Metat. It's not like groups of malachim to carry is the, yeah. So now, what is Olam HaYetzirah? Right? Going back to what we were discussing before about the Mishnah. Olam HaYetzirah is the world of Midos. Midos are where the products happen. That's where the Haylada, in the Midos, what we were talking about before, in other words, to have a hashpah.
Formation.
Formation, but it's the Midos, it's Chesed, Gvura, Tiferes. All formation must be
A combination.
a particular, right? In other words, Avraham Avinu, what did Midas HaChesed Atzilus said to Hashem, from when Avraham Avinu was born, I'm out of commission, he took me over. In other words, what is Chesed? Chesed is the Hashpah. Right? What are Mishnayos? Mishnayos are dinim. Just the halach, like this, like that. What do you need? Here's this, here's that. All the hashpahs. Now, the Malach Matat is referred to as a bird.
Right, in time.
The bird has a body. A body, that's the Vav. The Vav, it's very interesting. The Alter Rebbe writes, when he writes the letters, so the Yud, he writes a Yud and a dash. But by the Vav, he writes Vav Aleph Vav. The Hey, he writes the Hey with a dash. Only the Vav, he writes the full Vav Aleph Vav. Why? Because the world of Yetzirah is the letter Vav. So in Yetzirah, yes, there's the Yud and there's the Hey, but the dominant component of Yetzirah is the body, is the Vav. Then you have the wings, and then you have the Yud, Reisha delay, the head is the Yud. And then the wings, the right wing, the left wing, are the two letters Hey. When we talk about the head means the brain, not also the eyes and the mouth, and I was listening to and I'm going to end with this. I was listening to a Yechidus of the Rebbe at the end of month of Tishrei to the guest, 1992, the last. Yeah. So the last Tishrei. So the Rebbe, it's like I had to listen to it a few times to understand what the Rebbe is saying. It's like so himmeldike, like just words. I don't know what's the Rebbe saying? Like listen to it again and again. And one of the things the Rebbe says is like this. He says, till now, Tishrei, this is all just in the head. That Yechidus was tonight. It was the night of Rosh Chodesh, or the second night of Rosh. He's like, once Tishrei is over, now our Avodah starts. He says the same thing with the body. The body has a Rosh. But the whole point is execution. And execution doesn't happen in the Rosh. It happens in the body. And then he says an interesting thing. He says, yes, there are eyes and ears and like all those parts, but when we say Rosh, we don't mean that. He says, you know why? Because all those are there to help you in execution. You don't need your eyes for planning. The planning happens in the brain. So when we say Rosh, says the Rebbe, Rosh means the Moichin Shebe Rosh. It doesn't mean all the higher senses that you have in the Chush HaReach and all that. No, it means the Rosh. And he says Tishrei is the letters Reishis, all of that. So Tishrei ends, now we talk about go out and do what you need to do. So here with the bird as well, when we talk about the Rosh, it's the Yud, it's only the Moichin, it's only the mind. And so the Alter Rebbe will discuss. In other words, we're coming back to La'asoisei. The body of the mitzvah is the body of the bird. The bird, the wings are extremities. The mitzvah is the asiyah b'poil. You must have the action. Like that's the primary part. Then there's the arum. We'll conclude here, to be continued next week. Thank you to anyone who joined online. Thank you everyone for coming. Yeshakayach for the sushi sponsors. And everyone should have a wonderful, wonderful week. V'yakev holach l'dar.